Welcome back. A week-long visit to the Bahamas ends with the International Monetary Fund giving a positive assessment of the local economy. Having discussed the country's outlooks and risk, financial developments and sectors, the IMF team concluded that the Bahamian economy continues to recover, with real GDP growth projected to reach 2.3% in 2018 and 2.1% in 2019. This growth is said to be driven by an increase in tourist arrivals paired with an expansion of hotel room and airlift capacity and against the backdrop of the continued expansion of the U.S. economy. It calls then for maintaining strong fiscal and financial policies to bolster resilience and build buffers should external conditions become less favorable, and for advancing reforms to achieve more inclusive growth over the medium term. The IMF finds the enactment of the Fiscal Responsibility Law a welcome development, as is the plan to establish a disaster relief fund. The government was further patted on the back for narrowing the fiscal deficit from 5.5% of GDP in the 2017 fiscal year to an estimated 3.3% in fiscal year 2018. There's a commitment for further fiscal consolidation, targeting an overall deficit of 1.8% of GDP. Further, the team said it welcomed the government's transparent recognition of accumulated arrears and the budgetary provisions to clearing them, as well as the plans to put in place robust expenditure control systems. Banks were also given high marks for making progress towards improving asset quality. Well, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance K. Peter Turnquest views the IMF's positive assessment as an indication that the government's policies are starting to pay a dividend and that it is pleased to see its efforts are being recognized by the IMF and others. He, however, acknowledges that the economic recovery is still not as buoyant as the government would like to see it. In fact, in a statement, he admits it has not been easy to cut the fiscal deficit by some 37% in 1 year, down from $661 million to $415 million, but that the simple truth is that the government must stay the course, as there is a tremendous amount of work left to be done to quicken and strengthen the ongoing recovery and to ensure long-term fiscal stability and economic resilience. The government's expected to bring several new pieces of legislation in the coming months: public procurement legislation, public financial management legislation, and public debt management legislation. Well, the government can count out getting the support of opposition Senator JoBeth Colby Davis on a compendium of financial bills passed in the House of Assembly last week. As Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance K. Peter Turnquest explained in the lower chamber at the time, the bills, the Commercial Entities Substance Requirements Bill, the Removal of Preferential Exemptions Bill, the Register of Beneficial Ownership Bill, the Penal Code Amendment Bill, and the Non-Profit Organizations Bill, essentially seek to send the message that the Bahamas is open for legitimate business, thereby avoiding being named on the European Union's dreaded blacklist in January. Zooming in on the removal of preferential exemptions bill, Senator Colby Davis made this suggestion.
It is generally accepted principle that laws are not to be retroactive. So, Madam President, the opposition would suggest an amendment to this bill that states that all companies currently enjoying exemptions will continue to enjoy them until the expiration stated in the particular legislation, and that from the commencement of this act, only new companies will not enjoy the said exemptions.
Echoing a sentiment expressed by our colleagues in the House of Assembly last week, the PLP senator admonished the government not to bow to the European Union or the OECD.
Some are of the belief that the OECD has an ulterior motive to destabilize our offshore centers in an effort to redirect businesses to their shores. And I believe this would be my second time contributing to this sort of legislation regarding changes to the legislation to satisfy the OECD's request. During my former contribution, I queried why there seems to be this outright compliance with the OECD request with no sort of pushback. This is our financial services sector we are referring to. There must be some greater form of protection in this industry by the government, and more must be done.
But Senator Jennifer Isaacs Dotson stressed the need for the bills to be passed, as not doing so could cause reputational harm to the Bahamas that could concern its investors. Debate on the bills come just weeks ahead of the EU's meeting later this month to compile another blacklist. That blacklist, again, is to be published in January. A jump in local stopover activity has paid off all around. Data from Air Data showed a 50.5% increase in total bookings in the short-term rental market in October compared to the same period last year. An analysis of the major markets reveals that bookings in Grand Bahama firmed by 44.2%. This amid gains in both the entire home and hotel comparable listings. Significant improvements in bookings were also noted for New Providence at 42.6%, Exuma at 40.7%, and Abaco at 33.3%. The central bank's latest monthly report also found that during the period, the average daily room rates dropped by 2.3% and 3.4% to $284.20 and $128.86 per night for entire home and hotel comparable listings, respectively. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.